right.
All right. We are live. We are live. Yay. Welcome back to another Thursday. We are here for What the Frack Live. For all of you who do not know What the Frack, we are your fractional executives. We go over marketing tips, tactics, unpopular opinions. We have case studies and troubleshooting every week. And every week we do these lives because we wanted to be able to bring on experts, bring on other marketers, tell their stories, show that these things are actually happening in real life and that they are making a difference. And every week you get to meet a new marketer expert, learn some new tricks. And this week we have Liz Knight. You can find her on LinkedIn as Elizabeth Knight, but we're so excited to talk everything communications, PR, and marketing with you, Liz. So welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for
I'm
having
so
me.
excited to have you on because what I love about your work is how you think about PR and communications differently. And this is why I was like, we've got to have you on because it's not your typical PR strategy, right? And I think that is so important in these days with all the noise on social media, with all the noise in PR and a lot of the pay to play that's happening with PR as well. So I can't wait to pick your brain on how you achieve success with your clients in PR.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. And the media industry is very different than what it was even 5 years ago. So I think it really goes back to, where the industry was and where it's going. And we have to be agile for, whatever change that is and be able to still deliver to our clients while it's going on. So
where do you think the industry is? Where do you think it is right now? What's the landscape of the industry as you see it?
Okay, so this might be the unpopular opinion, but this is my theory. I think that right now, some things have to be broken in order to reform and evolve to have its longevity elsewhere. So by saying that, we've seen what happened. I'll give Hollywood as an example. The actors and writers strike last year. We're seeing what's going on with streaming services now. We just saw news this week that Comcast has an entire bundle with 3 streaming giants. So we're seeing where it's going for consumers. I believe that media has its own life that it is starting to form in different directions. And I think that we don't know yet. I could create a theory or say this is where it's going to go, but I don't think anyone really does know. But what we do know is that it's not staying the same. So we need to be agile and continue monitoring it. And ideally be there to also give media solutions. And work and be friends with media. I think a lot of people can be really scared of it, but these are humans just trying to share information that everybody wants to know. And imagine what life would be like if we didn't have a news publication validating the right information.
Well, on your point, so if you think about, like the traditional idea of PR and communications, right? And you think, okay, well, you've got to get earned media and you're sending out all these pitches. And what I think you're speaking to that's really interesting is what we're not paying attention to is how many news outlets are closing down, how the traditional journalist is stretched so thin right now. So how do you engage with these journalists who are overworked and don't have the capacity, right? Like, so there is so much with just the news media that's changing too, that probably contributes to how people should be doing PR now.
Yeah.
No, I think it's really interesting too, but I think let's take a step back for a second because I think we just went in hot and heavy and everything you just said, Liz, is like, oh my gosh, you're right. As marketers, we have to evolve with the times, right? But I think that a lot of people who watch our show, they're either marketers, they're directors of marketing, they're CMO level, or they're business owners who we're trying to teach to be able to, whether they become the marketer or not, we're trying to teach to be able to have the conversations around marketing strategy. And I think that PR is one of the most mysterious parts of marketing to like, and I've met marketers who've been doing it for years who still don't really understand what PR is, right? And as the time's shifting, I think that we traditionally think of PR as just, like you said, Tamara, you get a story or you get a product, you pitch it to a bunch of journalists, and you hope to be put on to shows. And I think that definition's kind of changing a little bit as the landscape is changing. So can you go a little bit into like what PR is to you?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to segue this going back. I think what might be most helpful is I will give you my elevator speech. I started my career in New York. I was working for two of the top PR firms in New York, which I'm very grateful for. That first one was Rubenstein Strategic Communications, where I worked with a lot of A-list talent from Dwayne Wade to Shonda Rhimes to Chris Paul and more. Got recruited over to Hiltzik Strategy, where I was on a very interdisciplinary team working with clients across industries, from bringing the rodeo to New York to working with Dr. Phil McGraw on his legacy planning, to former Google CEO Eric Schmidt's philanthropic endeavor, Schmidt Futures. With all that being said, I learned that you have to be creative in the stories that you're trying to tell people, but you also have to generate news and explain to people why that's news. What is breaking about it? What is urgent about it for a reporter to want to write it in the first place and for people to read it? So I had fortunately been able to really build a reputation at my agency for securing a lot of those desirable publications that my clients wanted. So fast forward to 2021, I decided to take the leap, open my own PR agency, thinking I'm going to secure, I know how to do this and I know how to secure these stories. But what I had quickly realized is a lot of people would hire me because you hire PR to help move the needle to grow your business. People aren't going to pay a publicist just to pay a publicist. They want something that's going to give them that return on their investment. So after excelling, fortunately, in delivering tons of national media for multiple people, what they really needed, what they were seeing was, it didn't mean investors or new partners were going to be knocking on their door like they had expected. They needed more holistic help. They needed help articulating their value proposition. And some of them, a lot of them, I realized, needed that right hand, even that fractional partner to help them achieve those goals. So this past year, our 3-year anniversary, we now are not only a traditional public relations agency, but we offer branding and business development support. So if someone's not ready for media, we're not going to try to just get a retainer client just to get a retainer and set ourselves up for failure too. We can tell these people, you're not ready. We want to foster these relationships with the reporters that are still there and give them the best stories when they're ready. And so that might include being a fractional CMO, sitting around at a conference table with them and coming up with ideas as they're speaking with the rest of their team, and seeing things really at that micro level, at that really detailed level of what they're doing, so we can have much better ideas to be able to execute media when it comes to securing stories and getting them the New York Times, the Foxes of the world, those big publications that people always dream to be in.
Yeah. There's two things you said there that I 100% wholeheartedly agree with. And if anyone's watched any of our videos, probably understands what I'm going to say here. And the first piece is, everyone always asks, like, how do I get PR? And the best advice I've ever gotten was, you can like go and pitch a product, right? But creating something that people actually want to talk about. So whether, if your product's like a drink brand, you don't just go out and sell to journalists that you have this next big drink brand. You maybe do a charity event where you co-brand with a charity that you're doing good, and you build a story that journalists actually want to talk about, right? And then the second piece about that is that So PR kind of is holistic, right? So just because you get that story doesn't mean that we can now build that into the marketing plan necessarily, because do you have a funnel to convert people? Do you have a landing page for them to go to? Do you have a call to action that they're going to go do? And if you don't have any of those things, just seeing it is not going to make anyone possible, maybe a few Google you, but just seeing it, if you have all those pieces, now you can like take your PR and bring it to the next level. But for a lot of publicists, that's not their job. Their job is to get you that placement and not to think about it holistically. And then the second piece that you said is that the fractional piece, everyone thinks that they hire a marketer and we just know what they need to do, right? It's like, oh, the reason I pay you so much is because you just know, you could just tell me what to do. But you said I've been sitting around boardrooms and I'm listening to what they're saying. And that's the important part, is that as you hire the higher, day rate of fractional, is that they know the things to pull out. They know the questions to ask. They know the assumptions to make that is going to get you to your spot sooner. But it doesn't mean they're not testing things. It doesn't mean they're not making assumptions. And it doesn't mean they don't need your input. Like, you are still a big part of this game. So I love that you said both of those things, and that we're talking about that in a conversation that I thought was going to be about PR, because publicists don't talk about those things.
I'm going to do a shameless plug. If you haven't watched our Super Bowl episode, we talk a lot about that fantastic media placement with a call to action. So,
yeah.
But yeah. So Liz, I'm really curious. So, I mean, I love that you've got this new holistic way of working with organizations. What's the number one thing that you see right now that you seem to say, okay, this is what these businesses seem to be struggling with, and I keep getting called in for this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good question. So at the end of the day, businesses are looking for either it's a startup and they need money, or it is a iconic brand and they want to make sure they're keeping up with the times so they have another 20 years for their future. I hope this answers your question, but how are we going to help them get money? We might know someone. We might be able to look at your pitch deck and realize this might not be sticking with an investor. So we'll help you with that pitch deck. We'll help you be able to articulate that so it resonates with them. The same way that it resonates with a reporter when you have that first 2 sentences in your email to them or on your phone call with them. I think the principles of business are the same in that sense of, if you're not going to draw them in immediately, why do they want to waste their time on seeing the rest of it? So it's a twofold. For startups, I would say that is something that we are making ourselves more known now that we can help with. And then for larger companies, diversifying opportunities and thinking outside of the box and finding really cool partnerships or collaborations or campaigns. It may not need to be a monetary thing, but there could be 2 brands that are completely different, but they share something there, that whether it be a part of their mission or their values, to be able to really create awareness of something that they both agree with. And I think that's another way to not only continue keeping exposure of those companies that are already on the radar, but letting people know that they're doing well and that they're going to continue being there for those consumers.
So, you know, what's funny, you're saying this, and Nicole, I wonder if you agree, like, this really feels, it's not the traditional understanding of PR that I think people have. So it's really looking like at how PR is evolving.
Yeah, I think that also, like going back to what you said in the beginning about, I think people are seeing the picture, right? The puzzle pieces are being put together from what you said in the beginning about how the media landscape is changing versus how we need to address that change, right? So it's not, communications is not just getting a magazine ad or getting a magazine interview, right? It's talking about your company in a way that sticks with investors. It's talking about your company in a way that sticks with your consumers. It's not just pitching, it's communications as a whole. And I think that kind of works into that landscape of everyone now is a journalist, right? You have a blog, you have a podcast, you could be essentially now. Doesn't mean everyone does it well. Doesn't mean that I think that journalists don't have their place. I think they absolutely do, right? But it does, it's the same thing with everyone's a photographer now that we have the camera on our phone, right? It doesn't mean that we don't need really amazing photographers out there. It just means that there are more outlets for people. And if we don't adjust our marketing plans and how it fits into our businesses, then we're not going to get the most out of communications. And I think you're one of the first agencies that I'm seeing that's really making that shift, because the big guys are stuck, right? They're stuck in what's always worked. And eventually they're going to see, oh, shoot, this isn't working anymore, but they're going to be way down the line, and you're ahead of where they're at.
So I got to ask, because I just love tactical stuff, right? Like and usually I jump into conversations too quickly with like, well, tell me what's working. How's the algorithm changing? What are you doing that and eating popcorn and wanting to know what is happening that's working right now for you. So what are you seeing that's either landing well, or a tactic that you're utilizing that's actually getting results or resonating with people?
Yeah. I'll give you an example of a company I'm working with right now. The reason why I love this company, it's new. I love new because we want solutions for everything. And there's so many uncharted territories that I think everyone's diving into right now. So the name of this company is called Park Pro. And the model of it is that for every 11 big rig semi trucks on the road, there's only one parking spot for them to be able to temporarily park while they're on the job. So when you look at a federal, law, and you have to pull to the side of the road, you need to find a safe, convenient place that's going to increase your productivity and let you continue getting to work. So what Park Pro does is it's not an issue that we don't have enough infrastructure or land to put these trucks and let these drivers be able to go. It's that they just need a conduit. Arenas, malls, civic and conference centers, stadiums across the nation are completely underutilized. You see brick and mortar malls they're just completely empty. So you're paying property taxes on them. So this is the Airbnb, Uber, and Park Mobile all come together to help the supply chain and help these truck drivers be able to, complete their job by partnering with a lot of these notable places. So the flagship host for Park Pro is the Florida Panthers NHL team at Amerant Bank Arena down in Sunrise, Florida, which is a huge port in the US. And we have hundreds of more locations that we're getting ready to announce in the near future. With all that being said, where media comes into this is we sent a press release out. It was great. It's great to have a really cool name attached to a new initiative like that. But how is it helping people right now? So what we did strategically is we have some top tier reporters who are very much interested. And it's a publicist's dream when you have a reporter emailing you a month later asking, where are we at with this? Can I have it first if it comes to fruition? But it's just enough to be able to put it on their radars, see if it's something that they're interested in. Now we know what we need to do to get that to the finish line for that story. And by doing so, I would say strategically, we're not only continuing to foster those relationships with people, but now with the press that we do have, we're securing new partnerships left and right. So with all that being said, I think that everything has a very bespoke approach to it, not even just for the company and the state of the company of where it's at, but it really goes daily. And so fostering relationships with those that you really want to target and focusing on local, regional while you can, you're keeping a steady drumbeat of attention and coverage going on your client while they're getting that big thing ready to go underway.
So I'm curious, you're having success with press releases.
That's a good question too.
I've been talking to like the people that I talk to, like I'm really getting mixed results from like how press releases are really being utilized right now and if they're working.
Yeah, I would say it's case by case, but not everyone needs a press release to have an amazing story. So whether it be a press release or just a simple pitch with a media one sheet, that goes back to the branding and why materials are so important. And I think one thing that I've noticed traditionally that I have historically, and that I know other agency colleagues have always struggled with, it goes back to what Nicole, I think you made a good point. We're not mind readers. We don't know what's going on, but if they can put on paper somewhere what this looks like and where that value proposition is right at the top of it, you may not need a press release. You don't need to do a media alert if there's, some reason to do a media alert. We put those things together because there's action that's going on, and that's the assistant, that accelerant to help them amplify whatever they're already doing.
So I want to just take a second here because I feel like sometimes I'm the translator between like founders and marketers or engineers or whatever, because we are so excited about what you're saying. And Tamara and I have been in the business, so we understand exactly what you're saying. But and this will end with a question towards you. But basically, I want to point out a few things that if you're a business owner, you're a marketing director, like that you could take away from what Liz just said, because what she just said is, in that case study, is so exciting, right? The first piece is we just heard, I love talking about to startup people because we just heard about a startup that doesn't necessarily sound that sexy, right? It's truck driving, it's parking spots, it's, not that like Google or Airbnb sexiness, right? And they can still benefit from some of these tactics. They're still going to be a really big company, right? And so there's a story there that you can find, even though it's not the sexy startup that everyone wants to talk about. The second piece to it that you said that I loved is that PR is not for everyone, or is not for everyone at different times of the journey. But if you know what point of the journey you're at and you know why, like what's the outcome of success you want. So for instance, that campaign you just said, truck drivers are probably not watching the news on a lot of things, right? So the campaign of getting them on news channels and stuff may not be for the truck drivers specifically, right? You may run a radio campaign because they're always in the truck and they're always listening to radio for that. But the success here was not for the truck drivers. It was for other partnerships, the stadiums, the malls, those people. And so knowing that success, if I went into it thinking it was for the truck drivers or getting more users, it would look like a complete flop. But because it was not, and we knew what the success metric was, it's actually a really beneficial campaign. So that's a really good example of how like not knowing what your success metric or who you're going after like can really change whether or not it's a flop or not. And then there was like one more thing. I think it was around, I totally forgot it. But with that being said, my question to you is, I'm a business owner, right? Let's say I'm a business owner. I'm thinking about PR. I may be a startup. What foundational, and this is two-part, what foundational things should I get started to like learn to come to you and start working with you and hitting the line, the pedal to the metal? Like, what are the foundational things? When am I ready for PR? And then the second question was going to be around, you know what? Let's just start with that question because there's too many things, Liz. You gave so many good information. But if I'm a business owner, I'm a startup, what are the foundational pieces that I need to get ready to say, like, I am ready for PR?
So I'll tell you the questions that I ask new clients every time. What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? What would you say your value proposition is that makes you better than anyone else out there in your competition? And what are you actively doing right now that is, when I say newsworthy, what are you doing right now that is going to impact anybody? Who is it going to impact? And what action is it that you're taking that is going to impact other people that makes it news? And their answers are always different. And that's how we start painting the canvas, is by having the answers to those core questions. I think a lot of people try to, and I'm guilty of it, reinvent the wheel. They want to, make themselves stand out in marketing by, asking these really cool, I don't know, confusing questions sometimes to people to look like they know more and they're experts. But at the end of the day, it's marketing 101.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I always think, I come from a media background, right? And so I always think when I'm looking at PR or what someone's doing is like, what are they doing? But also, how are they projecting it into the world, right? As a media person, it always had to be visual for me. So like whenever someone was saying, oh, I want to be on TV, it's like, well, but what, why? How do you think that you can, do something that is visual or, needs to be on TV? So my long-winded way of saying, how do you sort through like these campaigns and come up with the good campaigns that fit the company? Because not everybody should be doing TV. Not everybody needs to do media, magazines. Like, it is very different where you put people.
Mm-hmm. I'd say it goes back to their mission and values. And a lot of it's just ideation. It's getting a group of people who are passionate about the product or the mission and sitting around a table and really collaborating and thinking through, how do we want people to feel? What do we want people to get out of it? And what value would this campaign bring to people that goes back to your mission too? And sometimes people might say, we're doing a campaign. Why do you want to do the campaign in the first place? So I think that question is always important too. So leadership and anyone within that organization understands our why. In anything across the board, campaign or non-campaign related, just that reminder of having intention of anything we're doing.
I think we've seen that go bad, right? A lot of times we talk about all the good case studies, but we've seen that go bad, really bad, with some big brands lately. And this goes back to your talking about the media landscape changing, right? With like influencer marketing. So the biggest one I can think of right now, or two biggest ones. One is obviously Barbie and the Barbie movie and all the PR. And I bring that up because I was just watching our episode on Barbie that's going to be launching this week. And we talk a lot about that. And that went real well, even though there was a lot of hate and they knew who they were talking to and all those pieces. But then also the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light fiasco. There's been a few other ones. And this is back to what I was saying about PR agencies being kind of stuck, is they were like, oh, great, any publicity is good publicity. But what they didn't realize is that the core value of who you're talking to has to align, and the campaign has to align with your core values, because you're going to have to back that up at some point. Mm-hmm. And so it's okay to say no to certain, opportunities, right? If it doesn't fit with whatever your core values are, if that publication doesn't fit, then you probably should say no, right? And so it's okay to kind of say no to certain pieces. And then also it goes back to authenticity and comfortability, right? So if I'm not comfortable being on live TV, then maybe we don't go after those opportunities, and we do like written magazines or blogs or something else, because at the end of the day, people are going to feel that uncomfortability. Things can go bad really quickly. And so, or you can't fit it into your schedule, right? So I think that there's a lot of pieces that go strategically into this that people don't understand. And that goes back to what you were just saying, right? There is that core values, not knowing that and it goes back to marketing in general, basic marketing, but not knowing those core values really is important in marketing, but in PR specifically important because you're putting that word out there.
I got a question, and it piggybacks off of what you're saying, Nicole. We talk about this a lot on What the Frack, which is usually the organizations that we deal with, they're smaller, they're leaner, right? And you should only do something if you're able to dedicate the time and the resources to it, to do it well. Otherwise, don't do it or outsource it to somebody who can. So if there's a small business owner or an organization that's looking at, okay, we need to do PR. What's the minimal amount of time that they need to dedicate to it in order to do it well a week? Otherwise, they should re-examine where their priorities are.
Are you asking like how much time the organization should or the consultant?
The organization, but this will also play into if they know that they're hiring the right consultant, right? So how much should someone be spending? Like how much time should they be spending on PR if they're an organization or if they're working with an agency?
So I have two answers for you. I'm really throwing curveballs back. The first is because we have local and regional clients and they have different needs. Their goals are different, but they're not, it doesn't mean that their level of what they're doing and what their value is any different. It means that their mission is to be focused around the community. So I like to say for them, you know pretty quickly whether you can help them quickly or not. And I'm saying that because time is money. And the only way that you can really measure how much you're helping someone is by letting them know how much time it takes to prepare them for it or to try to secure something for it. I tell them PR you pray for, advertising you pay for. It is something that I say in the back of my head, and I say it to people all the time. Because if you don't educate them about that, they don't know that you might be breaking your back trying to get them a story. And then they had paid thousands of dollars expecting the more time she puts into it, the higher chances the story is going to happen. So for one answer, I would say it's just time. And the other answer, it depends on what that value proposition of the organization and who they're trying to reach. How close are they already to reaching those people? And are you hiring us to just kind of help you connect them at that point? Or is this a long shot bet that you're taking and you're hiring PR for what could either be a Hail Mary or an opportunity to finally have your first taste of national?
Yeah. I think that I always tell people that PR should not, the success of your PR campaign should not be measured in revenue because PR is not responsible for selling your product. PR is responsible for getting people to know who you are so that they can get to your spot so that you can then sell the product, right? And whether that's a landing page or a salesperson or whatever that looks like, you just want to get that phone call. Right? You just want to get that form in. You just want to get that person to look at your website, the traffic, the video, whatever it is. We've talked a lot about really good PR stuff. I'm going to kind of change the topic a little bit here. And this, Tamara, I think is something that I might want to start asking all of our live participants, because we talk a lot about, one of our things we talk about is that we want marketing to be accessible to everyone, whether they're small and starting out, they're big. Marketing right now, because there's so many different pieces, there's so many different specialties, it's very inaccessible to most people, especially if you're not a seasoned marketer. And so a lot of people are moving to fractionals, which is why we're here, right? We want to talk about, I think that in the next 3 to 5 years, fractional executives is going to be the next big thing. And I think that we want business owners, especially small and startups, to understand how that works into their space, right? So I always say I hate marketers, but I love marketers, right? And the reason I say I hate marketers is because marketers can be the success or death of your company. I'm truly will stand on a soapbox and say that marketing, whether it's supporting sales, it's inbound, outbound, PR, whatever that looks like, marketing needs to be involved from day one in the conversation, and it could stop you dead in the water. So if I'm going out as a business owner and I'm looking to bring in a fractional executive who's going to work on my PR, or a freelancer or an agency, what is the number one or maybe the top 3 red flags that I should be looking for when I'm asking, when I'm interviewing, right? This is a marriage. We're going to interview, we're going to date. What is the top 3 red flags in your industry that people should look out for when they're talking to an agency, a freelancer, or a fractional to bring into their company?
Ooh, okay. So
I'm going to get you in some trouble here, Liz, with other PR people.
It's okay. The transparency is important. So anything I'm saying here, I've said to a prospect or a client. You have to help me help you. So I would say that's one thing. How much time are you ready to put towards working with us? Because if you don't have the time, it goes back to the mind reader thing. Save your money. We don't want to take your money, and it's not the right thing to do it if you're not going to be there. The other thing, if I call it, or I don't call it, I think you may have heard, the sniff test, like the smell test. You can really, if they can't articulate their value proposition, and I say value proposition all the time, but it really is, if you can't articulate a value proposition or your goals, business model, then what do you want? So that kind of goes into the third thing. If you can't explain what you want, then why are we talking?
Yeah. And I think that like fits for either the businesses coming to you, but also if a publicist or a fractional doesn't want to spend time with you, they want to do everything over email, or they don't want to have meetings and talk to you, then are they the right one for you? The sniff test of like, if they can't articulate what's the process, I think especially in PR, publicists don't really talk to their clients about what the process. So it's just kind of like, I pay some money, I get maybe a report, I maybe get a few placements, and then I have no clue what you're doing in between, right? So being able to like articulate what's happening, who you are, like what's your value. And then also on that third one, I think it's also like being able to be transparent and open about like, are we right for each other, right? Or making sure that you're getting whatever data you need to make sure that this is in the right direction, going that way. So I love what you just said. It goes for both clients and for fractionals. Well, Tamara, do you have anything else to ask Liz?
No, I mean, I love tactics and tools, right? Like I feel like I could jump into that all day long and just learn what other people are doing. Like, send me your template. Like, I want to see it. Those are the things that I love. So hearing your steps and hearing how you were actually putting it into action are the things that get me excited about learning new ways to do PR, to do communication, right? And hearing that PR now is not really just what we traditionally thought of, like, building relationships with reporters and sending out all of these targeted emails, hoping to get a hit back, that it's really more holistic now and has like a lot of communication strategy behind it is just exciting. We have a lot of different things that are evolving in marketing, and this is one of them.
Yeah. And so if you are a brand who wants to do PR, wants to do communications, but wants to do it differently than it's been in the past, you don't want your grandma's PR, how can they find you, Liz?
They can go to my website at night-sc.com, or they could email me, shoot me a LinkedIn note, email me, Elizabeth@night-sc.com. I will respond.
And we'll add the links to the show notes here, because it is Knight with a K, like Knight in Shining Armor, not Night like we're going to bed at night. But anyway, well, thank you for being on. I'm so excited. I'm sure we'll have to call you back the next time we do an episode on PR and communications. Oh, Tamara, one last question. How did you feel about the Barbie PR marketing strategy?
Yeah. How did we miss that? Our Barbie episode is coming out this week. So
yeah. I think I really think it was smart. I think what they did, and the reactions that people had with all of the awards this past year, in terms of expectations of what we thought, I think that all goes back to marketing, because it means that it was enough of a marketing campaign to get people talking about why they were upset. And it was enough to get people in the box office. They made history. So I would say they did something right.
Well, there you go. So join us on YouTube, Instagram, whatthefrackshow.com. You can join our email newsletter to get all the updates every week here, Thursdays, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will have our lives. We have some amazing guests coming up. I just booked all the way throughout June, including one guest who will be joining us from the other side of the pond. But anyway, join us every week, and happy marketing.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.